Hello guys, welcome back in Goku Manhwa. Let's continue.
Switching scenes, Yiwon had told them that they must unlock the seal within 49 hours. Leah, distressed, remarked that the day was already nearing its end. JW emphasized that nearly 15 hours had passed already, but there was a matter even greater. Did anyone know Seonu? Yiwon asked. Jeonjin and Yizo both denied knowing such a person. Jeonjin concluded it would be wiser to move the following day, since they still had plenty of time. Leah questioned how he was certain it was Seonu, when many names were written on that slip. Jiwon, bringing out the box, revealed the symbol, insisting it matched the one beneath his name. Leah accepted the point. At that moment the ancestor spoke, stating it meant challenge. Jiwon turned toward Juizo and asked what exactly the ancestor had said. Wizo explained that the meaning of the symbol was challenge. Jiwon suggested it might represent a spirit of trials and began eagerly explaining all he knew about such entities. Jeongjin, hearing this, wondered aloud if that was why Dogong kept taking risks. The ancestor warned them that the shaman must be told immediately. Wizo, astonished, asked if they were to inform her mother. Jiwon, upon hearing that, became excited, for it meant a true shaman would join. Leah, observing the exchange, could not comprehend what was happening. Disbelieving, she asked Wizo if she was actually speaking with the dog. Wizo answered yes. Probably the others could not hear because only those attuned to spirits were able to. Lee weighed those words while stroking the ancestor. She thought it could not possibly be real. Wiz pulled her from such thoughts by calling her name, saying the ancestor requested she not stroke him carelessly, for he was not a dog but the forefather of Jeongjin. Leah repeated those words in shock. The ancestor of Jeongjin. Then, with his paw, the ancestor brushed away Leah's hand. Leah apologized respectfully to him. On the call, Wizo's mother explained that the curse was extremely dangerous. Even by watching the video through the phone, she suffered a painful headache. Wizo asked if she was all right, while Leah reassured her that all were unharmed. Quizo's mother, visibly irritated, explained that woman was something known as a spirit without children, a mystic medium who transformed human souls into familiars, inside a chamber filled with ancient objects holding bound spirits. Furthermore, the names of the living were inscribed into a ledger, honoring a contract to steal a soul along with the seal of a sorceress. Neither the child who cast the curse nor the one afflicted would leave untouched. Once 49 hours had elapsed, the cursed child's body would be overtaken by the spirit entirely, and the victim's soul would be sealed forever inside the talisman of the sorceress. By then there would be nothing left to attempt. Yet another concern remained. Even if the spirit returned after leaving the boy's body, if the seal were shattered, the soul of the child who cast the curse would likely be taken by the wandering medium spirit upon death. Leah, hearing this, remarked that she did not see what the real problem was. Wizo's mother admitted she understood her frustration, but urged them to bring the child who had invoked the curse. Before ending the call, she reminded them that the seal had to be burned before the 49 hours were completed. Thus, the next day, everyone moved with the purpose of locating Seonu. Seonu was seated in his classroom when a voice called, saying someone sought him. Rising, he walked forward. The person asked if he was Seonu and he answered yes. It was Jeongjin, muttering in frustration within himself. He wondered why fate had chosen him to find this boy. Jeongjin went straight to the point, asking whether he carried the seal. Seonu, hearing the question, froze. A heartbeat later, he panicked. Unable to reply, he bolted away, shoving Jeongjin aside as he passed. Jeongjin shouted at him to halt and gave chase, but quickly grew exhausted. Panting, he questioned why his stamina had drained so fast. His muscles ached sharply. At that instant Leah appeared and asked whether he had caught sight of him. Jeongjin, pointing forward and gasping, confirmed it was him. Immediately, Leah started the pursuit. From afar, Jiwon asked if Seonu had paid with hair and nail when acquiring the cursed object. "You are going to die," cried Jiwon. Seonu froze, terror flooding him, while Jiwon explained he had made a contract surrendering himself to a spirit. At that instant, Leah seized his shirt and demanded he hand over the seal. Seonu insisted it was false. Wizo, arriving just then, told him it was true. Leah, staring directly into his eyes, said that fortunately the contract could be voided if the seal was burned. Seonu, averting his gaze, asked whether doing so would restore Dogion. Leah answered that it would, that it was not too late, and that he should surrender the seal. Seonu remained silent briefly. Then he muttered cutting words of refusal. Jeonjin, exhausted, said he only needed to give up the seal. At once, Seonu fell into madness and with a twisted smile declared that having come so far, he would rather die than retreat. In that moment the sorceress's mark on his forehead began to glow. Realizing it, she smiled darkly. Seonu declared that his life was over regardless, for now everyone would resent him and surely spread tales about it. Jeonjin, weary, told him they would not. Jaiwon warned that if he continued behaving like that, resentment would indeed grow. Seonu confessed he had not imagined matters would spiral out of control. Jaiwon acknowledged this and Jeongjin urged him simply to give them the seal. Jaiwon added that Dog-jong would forgive once he apologized. Seonu began laughing while repeating the words, "He will forgive me." Then he asked if they truly knew the real Dogong. That man could act like a saint but always look down upon everyone. If he returned, he could display kindness in front of them, but would certainly turn all against them because he was a hypocrite. In the past, Seonu nearly became class president, but during the election, Dogong won through popularity votes. He had lost miserably, earning only 2 votes. Burning with rage, he wondered why Dogong had triumphed, when grade should have mattered. Instead, Dog-ion spent his days talking idly. How had they dared to steal his moment? Time passed and the results of the academic performance arrived. Dog-ion ranked first in the entire class. Seonu, hearing the whispers, was left in shock. His classmates remarked that Dog-jong, besides being the top student, was also handsome. He had a strong build and was even wealthy. Another classmate asked aloud if perhaps he was flawless. Seonu questioned whether such a boy could truly exist and told himself he was nothing but a deceiver. He had only staged a performance knowing beforehand he would be president. With fury, he clenched his fist. He thought surely that boy only laughed inside, pretending to be the most generous person before everyone. Lee remarked that he was only throwing a tantrum. Seonu said there was more and explained that Dogong had once approached him and failed to recall his name. Jaiwon asked the others whether forgetting someone's name truly made one a hypocrite. Jeonjin and Juizo shook their heads in denial. Seonu shouted that Dogong had looked at him with contempt. Leah, angry, told him to admit he hated Dogong, since that would make more sense. Jaiwon asked if perhaps he even knew him, as they had been in the same class. He added that it seemed Seonu merely wanted Dogong to be a hypocrite. Seonu, overwhelmed, began to cry, saying that even if he were not false, people like him should vanish, for they were the reason the world was unjust. He had struggled for his entire life. The other, instead, had been born with everything. Yon intervened, saying it appeared Seonu thought Dogong had everything too easily. Seonu interrupted him, declaring that it was true, that he had advantages in life compared to others. Slipping into madness, he said that bastards like him should not exist. Leah, shouting, demanded what he even knew. Dogong had always worked hard because he understood what it felt like to be despised by others like Seonu and feared being hated again. Seonu answered that it was normal, since he wanted to be an actor and was only building a reputation. At that moment Jeongjin stepped in and agreed with him, saying the world was unfair, since he himself often felt the same. Jaiwon, hearing that, was surprised and asked why he was taking his side. Jeongjin ignored the question and continued. He asked, and so what, if in a hypothetical case you truly removed Dogong, would your life be better, would the world become just? No, nothing would change. In the end, you would only focus on others similar to Dogong and when that happened you would end up in this same meaningless situation. If the time expired and Dogong disappeared, you would simply be a killer. Because even if his body still remained there, the true Dogong would have been erased and you would continue with your pitiful life. That truly was the act of a hypocrite. Seonu began to reflect. He remembered how at first he had not believed it would succeed, yet upon seeing the outcome he felt a twisted joy, since finally things would seem fair. Arriving home, he kept staring at the seal. Anxiety spread through him. He wondered if Dogong would truly vanish once the 49 hours ended. Could it even be considered murder? He tried to erase his guilt, convincing himself that Dogong was rotten and had already lived enough. When about to shatter the seal, he recalled how Dogong once said he looked familiar. That made him wonder if perhaps the boy would return, since he had seen his face. The following day frustration consumed him. He struck the bed and, sweating in panic, thought the reason he had done everything was because of Dogong, because he was unbearably false. For that reason all of this had unfolded. While crying, he hesitated on whether to destroy the seal or not. He told himself that Dogong had brought misfortune upon himself. Yet remembering his face, he began to weep again. In the present he asked what he should do. John Jin urged him to surrender the seal. John, witnessing this, covered his mouth in shock. He thought it resembled a comic where the hero redeems the villain. Juizo simply observed quietly while listening to Jaiwon speak. Jaiwon continued saying he had only feigned empathy, only to deliver a cutting blow, highlighting the futility of Seonu's actions. Such things truly worked in real life. Seonu slid his hand into his pocket to retrieve the seal. At that instant, the sorceress uttered the word perish. Suddenly, Seonu felt something unnatural within his body, collapsing to the ground and falling briefly unconscious. Leah asked what was happening. Tugging his shirt, she begged him to pull out the seal. Then, Seonu, with vacant eyes and a broken voice, whispered that he would go to his mother. Without giving them time to react, he started running. Leah shouted angrily, asking if he had gone mad. Jaiwon and Yizo exchanged a glance filled with nervous tension. Seonu never stopped. His steps echoed until he reached the window. With one single leap, he hurled himself into the open air from the heights. Let me announce that we have now reached 30,000 subscribers. I thank you all deeply for the support. These last few days I have been busy and unable to read many manhwas, but I realized there are additional chapters available in other languages. So, as a token of gratitude, I will translate them and bring them here to the channel. I have also noticed that other creators have already opened secondary channels. Out of pure laziness I have not yet done so. But should this channel ever be deleted or should something happen, the new one will carry the same name, with only a 1 added at the end. With nothing more to say, I will see you in the next.